As we move forward to the future, things change, things advance, and we as humans just need to adapt to the new trends and metas. However, no matter how much time passes, some things will never change, such as the past, true love, and absolutely shitty video game balancing. The term OP is something that every gamer is familiar with. I mean, seriously, say this to some Chinese guy in your lobby who has never spoken a singular word of English in his entire life, and he'll know exactly what you mean. Overpowered, overly potential, orange prick, whatever you want to call it, this term has to be the most globally known term in the video game community, along with words like noob or GG. No matter how good you are at a certain game, you'll always end up dying to some bullshit and respond with something like, "Hey yo, that shit is OP!" Because it's always easy to blame the shitty balance team for your lack of skills. But the sad reality is, most of the time, this is the truth. Most, if not all, video games played at a competitive level have shitty balancing. And that's why we have metas and tier lists being created every day, along with some sort of banning system for most games. Obviously, this doesn't apply to all skill levels of the game. You could still pick Wind Ranger Safe Lane in Dota or Doomfist in Overwatch and probably get away with it. But try doing that in high level games, and not only will you go on a hefty losing streak, but you're probably gonna suffer from some mental trauma from all the teams that were constantly flaming your ass. Balancing in video games just suck, plain and simple. But I mean, you can't really blame the balance team. I mean, look at this shit. These are currently all the playable champions in League of Legends to date, totaling to over 160 playable characters. Are you telling me that you expect the balance team to make sure all of these different characters are tuned to the exact same level of potential in gameplay? It is literally impossible. I mean, seriously, how do you expect them to do that when they're too busy working on more skins for Ari? So we get it. True balancing in video games is a myth and does not exist. Sure, some games aren't as bad and do have better balancing than others, but overall, certain characters becoming way stronger than intended and taking over the rest of the cast is inevitable. But this video is not about how much I hate balance teams for sucking at their job. I mean, they're trying their best. What I really want to do is go over 3 different characters from 3 different games and analyze what truly made them OP. I want to further define what being OP truly means, like what exactly did the devs do to make such a huge mistake and create something that they forever regret. These characters were so bad and balanced so poorly that they almost killed their respective games. So let's dive right into this completely awful, despair-filled PTSD shithole, shall we? Now, don't get me wrong, Dota Frogs. This is a personal choice of mine, and I know you may have your own opinions on what you think was worse than this guy, but it's sort of hard to only select one, considering Valve has a tendency of making the same mistake again and again and again and again and again and again. So bear with me, but this, in my opinion, was one of the worst creations in Dota history. For those of you who don't know, Warden is a late-game carry hero in Dota 2. Like many others, his whole playstyle revolved around getting as much farm in the early game and mid-game as possible so that he can finally wreak havoc onto the enemies during the late game. But what made him interesting and stand out among the other heroes is that he had the ability to clone himself. And this isn't some half-assed soy boy version of himself. No. This clone was exactly the same as the original. That's right, you heard me. I'm talking same health, same stats, same items, same damage per hit. He can cast the same abilities, teleport around the map. All of this for an agonizing 20 seconds that felt like an eternity because it was on a 55-second cooldown. And this character, well, let's just say it led to a few game-breaking bugs. Just a few. Like unlimited gold, item duplicating, unlimited stat increase, the clone being immortal, forever max BKB duration, and the Divine Rapier, the strongest item in the entire game, so strong it's supposed to be dropped on death, was being copied over to the clone. And no, when the clone died, the Rapier didn't drop. It didn't fucking drop. So that meant that this motherfucker could just sit in his base, safe from all harm, while spamming his clone with 6 Divine Rapiers to finish the game for him, making it basically impossible for the enemy team to come back. Warden's kit wasn't just OP, it was literally going against every rule of Dota. It was straight up cheating.
He's sitting here. He's sitting here with his hero for like the last 20 minutes or something. And he just sends some fucking shit-stained illusion. And it just kills my whole base.
Needless to say, nobody was happy playing against it, and judging by his changelog history, Valve wasn't too happy with him either, resulting in the biggest mistake created in Dota history. Actually, wait, never mind. I meant to say the second biggest mistake in Dota history. In League of Legends, trying to pick out one broken hero from a game filled with them is tough, to say the least. Considering that Riot patches the game every 2 to 3 weeks, metas shift like crazy, and the most broken champion changes with every couple patches. It's safe to say that almost every character in League has had their fair share of becoming God mode. Yes. Even Yorick. But eventually, after a long, deep, and painful trip down memory lane, I can't help but think that Ryze deserves this spot. Sure, there was Jax with his infinite dodges and Twisted Fate with his AoE stun, but those characters were overtuned during the beta stages of the game. I felt as if it was unfair to pick either of those characters since the game wasn't officially released yet, and they were obviously still testing the game's limits. I wanted to select a champion that was so broken, not even Riot knew what to do with him. He was even featured in professional play during his uprising and was so notoriously broken that the crowd even booed the person playing him.
By Huni, who's finally gotten rolling, and he's stunned up after the flash. Huni follows him through and solos him down.
Every time they would buff him, he would take over the Rift, and every time they would nerf him, he'd be borderline unplayable. So it was pretty difficult for Riot to find out what exactly they should do with him. It felt as if every day was just another Ryze rework. Like the guy has gone through more changes than a Korean pop star's face and was even disabled at one point due to him being too broken and unfixable. What made Ryze OP was the mistake of giving him this brand new passive called Supercharge that allowed him to basically have 0 cooldowns. And let me reassure you that I'm not over exaggerating this. I literally mean 0 cooldown. Supercharge basically worked like this. Every time Ryze cast an ability, every other ability on CD would have their CD reduced. Riot's plan was to try and make Ryze this super fast-paced, rapid APM mage with a very high skill ceiling. However, what they ended up creating was anything but high skill. It resulted in the biggest keyboard mashing shit show anyone has ever seen. Absolutely no one can 1v1 Ryze in lane, and every time he would get ganked, he would just kill them both, using his ult that would give him spell lifesteal and even more cooldown reduction as if he would need it. I mean, just look at this clip of a poor Maokai that has to suffer the consequences of Riot's shitty balancing. Keep in mind that Ryze doesn't have a single fully built item, and Maokai is supposed to be a full-on tank.
It's already melted, and you're not going anywhere. Get in the rune prison. Huni's still chunking him down. Finally takes a little bit more damage, but an auto attack will do it again. 4 and 2 on the Ryze now.
I have never in my life witnessed a game with a worse balanced team than Overwatch. I mean, seriously, if you truly hate unbalanced gameplay, this game would be your worst nightmare. Which is a shame since the characters in Overwatch are overall pretty unique and own different playstyles, all with their different traits and tactics and booty sizes. It's always nice to see variety in competitive games. However, in Overwatch, every season goes the exact same. These are all the heroes that you can pick, but if you don't pick these heroes, you're most likely going to lose. It's almost as if Blizzard's way of balancing the game is to just spin this giant wheel with every hero's name on it, and whatever it lands on is gonna dominate the entire game. Brigitte, without a doubt, has to be the biggest mistake in all of video game history, single-handedly bringing down not only the player base, but also the viewership of the game's now awful pro scene. It was not only boring to watch or play against her, it was also boring to play as her. She had absolutely everything. It was disgusting. Good damage, above average health, a shield, passive healing, can give armor to allies, a long range push, and a stun. That god forbidden fucking stun. A stun may not seem like that big of a deal for some of you who've never played Overwatch before, but in a game where movement is everything and sitting still just for 1 second will lead to death, this stun basically removed the DPS role from making any plays in the game, shifting the meta over to GOATs, a professional team well known for their composition that consisted of 3 tanks and 3 healers. No DPS. The whole strategy would revolve around standing together as this unkillable wall, camping on the point and never losing any fights. Every time you would try to make a move, you would get stunned by Brig and picked off, and every time you would try to combo your ults together, Brig would just rally, allowing her whole team to tank basically everything. Wow, doesn't that sound like fun?
Player on Houston. It's Jake on the far. This combo's worked well for them before, but as soon as they see the defensive setup, they will just simply swap it away. Crucial time lost here for the Outlaws.
Needless to say, Brigitte was just too damn strong. She was basically a DPS, tank, and a healer all at the same damn time. And worst of all, her kit was just so easy to use. Almost anyone could just pick her and abuse her power. Just imagine being a pro Overwatch DPS player who's known for his insane aim and crazy outplays, now forced to just pick some bitch with a mace that takes 0 skill.
Chat, I cannot imagine what it's like to be a pro player right now. Chat, I want you to think of this, okay? Where people and pro players scrim this meta probably 6 to 8 hours a day. Think about it. Think about how their brain... Chat, this is your brain on GOATs.
Overwatch became so bad and suffered so much, it forced Blizzard to literally re-release their game just so they can have a fresh new start. But thankfully, after several months of development and a lot of nerfs, Overwatch 2's release was a huge success and has brought Overwatch back on trending. On Pornhub, the game still sucks.